They call that shrinkflation.
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 We've all noticed that prices are going up. But have you noticed the phenomenon of shrinkflation? That's when a company reduces the size or quantity of a product while maintaining its sticker price. It's a sneaky way of cutting costs without alerting customers that they're paying the same, or more, for less. In this video, we'll look at 5 notable examples of shrinkflation, introduce the man whose life's mission appears to be calling manufacturers out for these offences, and examine shrinkflation's evil twin, skimflation. We'll also look at how shrinkflation is giving us a warped view of inflation and give you a few tips as to how you can spot shrinkflation when you run into it. First up, let's give some context by talking about inflation, or the rise in the cost of living. We've all been feeling it over the past year or so. In fact, it's estimated that global inflation in 2022 hit 8.75%, marking its steepest annual rise since 1996. And although inflation has come down a bit this year, it's still pretty high in many places. I'll leave a link to the Financial Times' country tracker in the description below if you want to see how your country compares with the global average. Now, a number of factors have contributed to high inflation rates in recent years. Supply chain disruptions caused by the pandemic delayed products getting to market, which naturally led to shortages, followed by a glut as those disruptions eased. Meanwhile, the massive printing of money, most notably in the United States with an unprecedented stimulus package, pushed up the supply of the dollar. Then we had Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which pushed grain and oil prices up. And when oil prices go up, everything goes up. So the challenge politicians and economists now face is how to get out of an inflation cycle. Higher prices push up the cost of living, which causes employees to demand higher wages, which drive up the costs of production, which pushes up prices, and so on and so on. Now, in some countries, this inflation cycle has spiraled out of control. In Argentina, Lebanon, Venezuela, Turkey, and Zimbabwe, inflation rates have reached double and even triple digits in recent years, a phenomenon known as hyperinflation. In some of these countries, crypto has been a welcome hedge. In others, adoption has remained low. I'll leave videos in the description if you want to know why. So, how do countries control inflation? Well, this is where central banks like the US Federal Reserve come in. By raising interest rates, they increase the cost of borrowing and, hopefully, reduce inflation. The trick is to raise rates just enough to cut inflation, but not so much that such a move triggers a recession. That's what Jerome Powell and his ilk are paid the big bucks to try and do. Now, though, onto the topic of the day, shrinkflation. While raising the prices of goods is one way companies can offset their increased production costs, there is another altogether sneakier way. Enter shrinkflation. Now, it's sometimes said that life is like a toilet roll. The closer you get to the end, the faster it goes. But whether or not that expression stacks up, it appears that toilet rolls nowadays are smaller than they were when Socrates, or whoever it was, first uttered it. And companies are trying to hide this from the customer. Crisp packets seem to have fewer crisps. Toothpaste tubes apparently have more air, and, horror of horrors, Toblerone triangles are now spaced further apart. Now, these artful acts of deception are the sorts of things that really rub consumers up the wrong way. Companies spend untold amounts of money trying to build up brand loyalty, only to then pull a fast one and end up giving you less for your money. So then, let's now have a drum roll, please, because I'm about to give you 5 notorious examples of shrinkflation. So, in 5th place, there's XL Chewing Gum, a Canadian brand. Only Canadians would name a chewing gum after a software program. That's a joke, folks. Don't get angry in the comments, please. Anyway, instead of 10 pieces of XL gum, you now get 9. One of the gum slots has been replaced by a grip. Why do you need a grip? The only thing slippery about this chewing gum is its marketing department. Anyway, next up, it's Hill's Science Diet Perfect Weight dog food. Yup, even pets aren't to be spared by shrinkflation. Now, you've got to hand it to Hill's, they've been pretty creative here. Not only is the ad riddled with buzzwords like new look and improved recipe, but the photo shows the new packet to be larger than the original, which is utter BS, or more accurately perhaps, utter DS. Moving on. In third place, it's Gatorade, and I'll let Trevor Noah take this one.
Yeah, she's right. That Gatorade bottle's looking good. You're like, damn, what you been doing, Gatorade? You stopped drinking Gatorade?
Thanks, Trevor. Now, in second place, we have a more concerning example. BD brand syringes used for injecting insulin have gone from 100 in a box down to just 90. Now, chewing gum is one thing. Medical products, well, that's a whole different matter. Not cool, BD. Not cool at all. And now, in first place, we have a staple of British confectionery, Quality Street. If you're unfamiliar, let me just say that Quality Street is as important a component of a British Christmas as turkey, Santa, and that depressing hangover you get on Boxing Day. Nothing says it's Christmas time to a Brit like a family box of Quality Street. And while families have indeed been getting smaller, we don't need Quality Street to reflect that, thank you very much. As you can see, Quality Street has been shrinking over the years, and I, for one, am outraged. People all over Britain would be taking to the streets if they knew the truth. And if it wasn't raining. Thankfully, though, amid the dark clouds of companies trying to deceive their customers comes an unlikely torchbearer to help us find our way. Edgar Dworsky is a septuagenarian, semi-retired lawyer whom the New York Times, in a glowing profile, called, quote, possibly the world's foremost expert on shrinkflation. Frugal Edgar is described as the people's champion, quirky and upstanding, always on the lookout for examples of shrinkflation. And it's thanks to Edgar's website, mouseprint.org, that we found so many stunning examples of shrinkflation for this video. His public appearances are pretty amusing too. Here are a couple from John Oliver's Last Week Tonight.
Well, shrinkflation is kind of the newfangled name for downsizing.
Now, it's all well and good to criticise manufacturers, but to be fair, inflation is a big concern for them too. They're trying to figure out how to balance these rising costs while continuing to sell their products to customers. Customers, mind you, who have lower purchasing power because of inflation. Shrinkflation is sneaky, but it's not illegal. Whether it's immoral or not is open to debate. Certainly Edgar, as well as some companies, feel that greater transparency is needed. As Edgar notes on his website, the French retail giant Carrefour recently announced that it will place signs on products that have been downsized, alerting customers that they are getting less of the product than they might expect. France's parliament is also taking a pro-consumer position. They're soon to debate a proposed law that would require manufacturers to clearly label products that have been reduced in size, but while the packaging has remained the same. Liberté, qualité, fraternité et transparency.
Yes. Cousin Barry. Coin Bureau. 1, 2. Here we go. Hello, Barry here, Guy's cousin, here to tell you about crypto deals by the dozen. The Coin Bureau deals page is the place to go. That's where all the mad discounts are put on show. What's that? You think I'm full of crap? You trying to say this geezer can't rap? Okay then, try this one on for size. I'm going to hit you with the deals page big prize. Yes, exchange sign-up bonuses of up to 40k. Oh yes, I'll have a bit of that, I hear you say. You're welcome. Yes, it's my pleasure. But wait, there's even more treasure. Here, there's trading fee discounts too. So don't say I don't do nice things for you. And hold up, there's even more there. You can even get some money off of hardware. Hardware? Right there. Oh yeah, so pure. Wallets to keep your crypto secure. Because you know me, I'm all about self-custody, and so should you be, don't you see? Anyway, That's all I've got to say today. So once a video's done, make sure you click away to the Coin Bureau Deals page. You know where to go. Link in description down below. Preach!
Now though, let's turn to skimflation, which, as I mentioned in the intro, is shrinkflation's evil cousin. Skimflation is a term used to describe a situation where, instead of raising prices, companies reduce not the quantity of their goods, but the quality. The term was seemingly coined by NPR's Planet Money, and it refers to both consumer goods and services. In an article from late 2021, NPR highlighted some of the examples they were aware of in the US. So, visitors to Magic Kingdom, a theme park located at the Walt Disney World Resort in Florida, were outraged to find out that they had to walk a mile instead of taking the theme park tram, which wasn't in operation, seemingly due to cost-cutting. The report also mentioned understaffing across the service sector more broadly and the resulting delays to the quality of service. And our white knight Edgar is also tackling skimflation on his blog. Two recent examples he highlights are particularly egregious. The first is Conagra salad dressing. Edgar has noted that its makers have decreased the oil content, cutting over 22% of the calories, while seemingly substituting it with water and an additional 30% of salt. The other example, quote, made the front page of the New York Times and drew outrage from regular users who posted over 2,000 one-star reviews on its website. Yikes. This happened after Edgar's website noted that a margarine brand called Smart Balance reduced its oil content by nearly 40% and replaced it with water. Customers were rightly outraged. The product, of course, didn't taste the same. Facing the furore, the parent company, Conagra, reintroduced the original recipe earlier this year. Now, you might have noticed that most of the information in this video comes from American sources, and that's simply because most of the data we found on this topic is US-focused. I mean, where else do you get information like this? And I quote, "A new national study of fast food drive-thrus found the speed of service has decreased by more than 25 seconds over the last year, and workers are not as friendly. Signs, surely, of a civilization on the very brink of collapse." But, jokes aside, you can be sure that this deterioration in quality, due at least in some part to inflation, is a global phenomenon. Also, spare a thought for countries that, as I noted earlier, are going through hyperinflation. There have been reports in Lebanon, for instance, that food safety standards have dropped and foodborne diseases like salmonella have been on the rise. This is due to a confluence of factors, most notably refrigeration issues due to frequent and long-lasting power cuts. Of course, there are solutions like generators, but these cost money. The point I'm making is that inflation, in its various guises, ripples throughout society in ways we might not be aware of at first glance. And this brings me to my next point. Many people focus squarely on inflation as a gauge of the cost of living. You'll probably be aware that, in the United States, inflation rates are measured using the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. This indicator takes a basket of consumer goods and services and compares it over time to determine the average inflation rate. But, as you've seen from this video, shrink and skimflation are other forms of inflation. Yet these aren't accurately reflected in official data. In other words, in some respects, inflation is much higher than official figures suggest. However, it's also true that technology has helped drive down costs in other aspects of our lives. As Alan Cole, an economist and writer, noted to NPR, streaming services like Spotify have dropped the costs of listening to music. And you can say the same about Netflix for watching films. Now, while some of you 90s kids might not remember this, those of us of an older vintage used to buy CDs from Virgin Megastore or rent films from Blockbuster. Ah, the good old days. But, to my knowledge, these cost-saving aspects of our lives are not well captured by traditional inflation indicators. Now, before I sign off, I promised you that I'd share tips on how to become a savvier shopper and spot shrinkflation out in the wild. Well, Edgar notes two things when it comes to the goods you typically put in your basket. First, keep an eye on updated packaging. Signs like new and improved are potential red flags. But the real indicator is the net weight. With very few exceptions, according to Edgar's website, this data rarely lies. If the net weight of a product is reduced, even if the packaging still looks the same, in all likelihood you've got yourself a case of shrinkflation in your hands. So, caveat emptor, my friends. And there you have it, folks. Now, I'm looking forward to reading in the comments about your experiences of shrink and skimflation. What egregious examples have you come across? And if you're a manufacturer, maybe give us your perspective too. Before you go, if you enjoyed this video and learned something from it, please like it, share it, and make sure you subscribe to both Coin Bureau and Coin Bureau Clips. Also, head on over to the Coin Bureau Deals page where you can find the best discount deals and finest crypto merch there is. It helps support our channel and lets us continue to provide you with the best crypto and macro content out there. Until next time, this is Guy, over and out.